crime scene to courtroom over the last 2 years has gone through so much of the case, statements, articles, and found some really sounds information that just weren't out there. Open the minds to a lot of people on the case. Open their eyes. You know, I personally find it really difficult for. And I'm not. Listen, everyone's got their own opinion. Everyone's got their own choice of who they think was involved. But personally, for me, I find it difficult that anyone could not listen to all of crime scenes courtrooms videos and come away with it and go, yeah, Mick and Jack are still guilty. 100%. 100%. My question to you would be, where's the motive? And if you're going to turn around, oh, wait, they fell out over the dead cannabis. Did they? Did they, though? Or did they for a minute? And then they sorted it out? Because remember, they went to Ofsted together, yeah? And Barry Dorman had seen Pat sorting Mick out the money. Yeah, and he's not going to... They're not going to be giving daggers to each other. You're not going to see this underlying beef and go, shit, man, there's some beef there. I reckon Mick might try and kill Pat because he was giving him right evils. But on the surface, you can kind of get the gist if there's any sort of beef there, slightly, maybe. Or am I wrong? Am I wrong? Are they such good fucking actors? Are they so good with each other that they, you know, Mick's rocking up there, getting his little drink money for going sorting out the dead cannabis money, and Pat's giving it him, and back of Mick's mind is like, oh, I can't wait to shoot your fucking brains out. Why? Because he threatened him. Pat threatened everybody. He was unpredictable. That's what he was like. I mean, I'm sitting here now going on like I know him. I ain't got a clue. I'm talking about on all accounts of what we know. You know, towards the very end, Pat was very unpredictable. And he may have threatened Mick, but did he really mean it? Was he going to follow through? Was he really going to shoot Mick? I mean, that is the big question in the air. I mean, what were they down that lane that night for? You know, were they really down there to meet a hitman to take out Nipper, and the hitman took them out? Were they really down there to go and see where a plane was going to land? Were they really down there to get... A plane was doing the drop, they were going to get the drop. Why no weapons? Were the weapons removed by whoever it was? On to Nipper's revelation. I'll be honest with you. When it came out that it was his dad, when he said it at the end of the interview, the Q&A, that dropped on New Year's Day with Liquid Bullet Productions, I was shocked. I didn't expect it. There was mention of a Q&A. There was a post with questions directed to Nipper. And I honestly thought it would be a Q&A of his involvement with the three stories about Pat and Tony. Probably we were going to get the axe, the machete story. The meat cleaver. Whatever Tony had in his hand, and he went round there and he threatened Nipper with his foot or his hand. I thought we were going to get that again. We've had it so many times. That story has been featured in many of the documentaries about the Essex boys. But we didn't get that. We got various answers to questions that were asked him about Pat and the history and fighting and things like that. And he mentioned a few times during the interview he knew he'd done it, and it definitely wasn't Mick, and it definitely wasn't Jack. And I kind of thought, oh, he's going to probably say the police, or we'll say one of the names that we've that get mentioned over in the groups, Facebook groups, or over the YouTube channels, or just involved in the case itself. But he didn't. He mentioned that his dad did it, which was quite a surprise and sent quite a few ripples through the case, through the groups, through the YouTube channels, or anyone that's involved or invested in or interested in the case itself. But then the story came out of who else was involved, and that was the bit I struggled with, because Damon Albarn's only ever been sort of mentioned, in the Ricky Percival case, and sort of nowhere in the history of Pat, Tony and Craig, only that he'd looked up to them, and possibly had sort of spoken to them, to his friend Dean Boshell, and exaggerated that he was involved in them. But that's just from a scene from Bonded Blood 2, which, having not finished the Essex Boys Next Generation or New Generation book, I'm only got halfway through. I've done it actually, not entirely sure if that was actually a conversation that was ever had. So to put Damon as the fourth person in the Range Rover, it just seemed a bit of a stretch, and definitely someone that I've never suspected of being the fourth person. I mean, there has been. I mean, to be honest, it's always been sort of Mick, as not in my mind, but has always been. I think obviously because of the end of Rise of the Foot Soldier and Bonded by Bird. A lot of people have always thought Mick was the law, was the person that got them down there. There's obviously Donna Jagger's statement saying that Craig was going to meet Mickey the pilot, which then, unless there's another Mickey the pilot, but that does definitely not mean that Mick was the shooter, involved in it. You know, maybe they were meeting him. There's could be all night and all day if we was to think of all the different scenarios and theories out there. But going back to it, I honestly didn't see the Damon Albarn thing, and that has made a lot of people think, is this just something to do with Ricky Percival? Is this just Nipper trying to drop Damon in it, or trying to just, is this something to do with Ricky Percival? Is this his way of trying to bring Damon out from hiding and expose him? I don't know. Why 4 years is a lot of people's reasoning behind, a lot of people's questions why Nippers took so long to come out with this. And I was told he just wanted to set the record straight for once and for all. Knew there was various... The bit that's hard to believe is the fact that Steve said that he had no knowledge of the case interest, the Facebook groups, the channels, Crime Scene, the Courtroom, and the various other channels. He had no... I mean, fair enough, if you're getting on with your life, it's understandable that you're not going to be knowing exactly what's going on. But having been someone that has always been on the mind of, could it have been him? Could have been involved? Nipper's always been one of the people that's been up there. There's a handful of people, probably 10 people, give or take, that have always been on the front mind of everyone, that has always sort of said, you know, there's been various polls on the Facebook groups, and Nipper's always been in the polls. It's never been, we put Nipper there? Nipper's always been there. It's always been, I don't know if I should mention all these names, but he's been up there. It's always been sort of Mick Jack, Nipper, him, that person there, Billy Jasper, was obviously the driver, and then the person that he mentioned that he dropped off. That just opens a whole box of other thoughts, because 12 o'clock, I mean, that just sets the mind off, sort of like shots at 9, shots at 12. I mean, I did truly believe at one point, if Tony had been shot 3 times, or twice, 3 times, it's sort of, it gets debated a lot that he was shot twice and one of the third entry wounds, exit wounds, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. let's just say for a fact, he shot 3 times. In my mind, I was thinking, well, was it 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock and midnight? Because that's the time, that's the shots that we hear. I can't even truly remember if there were shots heard at 7 o'clock or not. But definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. You know, it kind of doesn't make sense that where were they for between 7 and midnight. There's no phone records, but we know that there's the chance of Essex police have probably not released certain parts of the phone records. You know, whatever sort of says, oh yeah, they weren't dead by 7. You know, whatever it takes to cover up the fact to make Darren's story look like it's the one. Perfect. But how could it be with 28 statements? I mean, wasn't it like trainers, wellies? There's so many small things you can pull out of it. Like Jack shoots them all. Well, Mick and Jack shoot them. Dials Darren. No blood in the phone. So he took his glove off, and it's Darren's version is a fairy tale. It's like Jack and the bloody beanstalk, you know what I mean? You're telling your kids and you're going, there's a giant and he fell down the bean and he dies, and your kid's looking at you like, bullshit. And you go, no, it's true. He's going, bullshit. There's no giants. There's no beanstalks. And where did he bury him? It's just like, where's this grave of this big fucking thing that fell down from the beanstalk? Jack and the beans that grow, you know, nursery rhymes. The jury were fed a nursery rhyme, and they believed it. And I know certain people out there that believed the jury because they said guilty. Because, well, you know, as many people as it is on a jury wouldn't get it wrong. What was it, they went out for dinner? They couldn't decide. And they all went out for dinner, and they came back with a decision. What was put in their drinks that night? You know what I mean? Like, happy pills. Just say yes. Okay. So I'll tell you, take me out for dinner. Take me to Joe Fridays. And I might say yeah on a trial, but as if, you know, Darren's a liar. He did what he did what he was told to do by the Essex police. There's a rumour that he was bullied into it. Say this or you'll get sent down, or say this because remember there's the bit where they turn around and they say to Darren, right Darren, now we want to discuss with you your possible involvement in the murders of Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe. He probably shit him. He probably literally at that point in that room when they said that last name, he did this and he went, fuck, I weren't involved honestly. And they're like, yeah you were. We know you were. We know you were the driver. I weren't the driver. Well, can you say you was the driver? Yeah, right then. You know, boom. Job done. Let's go get a McDonald's. 28 statements. No one gets it wrong 28 times. If you've seen it, if you know something, right? If something's happened to you and you've been asked to make a statement about it, your memory might be a little bit vague, right? But it would come back to you. Especially if it was something as serious as what Darren had gone through that night. So he mixed with them lot, drops Jack off. Jack goes down the lane, he ain't got a clue what's going on. Just thinks they're going down there doing a deal, whatever. Hasn't got a clue, yeah? So he says, they get back in the car. Oh, Jack's in the back laughing. What are you laughing at? It's a bit weird. Mick gets in, turn that fucking light off now. Why would Mick tell him to turn the interior light off now when he knows when the door closes it goes off anyway? Darren's there fumbling. I mean, obviously I'm just relaying the end of Rise of the Foot Soldier, but that is in so many ways Darren's version of exactly what went on. Jack's laughing. What the fuck with us then, will they? You know, and then Mick's going on about it, and Darren ain't got a clue, and he's sitting there and he's like, what? I mean, you got to think about it. What if deep down, Darren really liked Pat, Tony and Craig, really liked them, as if, like, you know, formed a really good friendship with them. which obviously isn't true. Mick gets in the back of the car, they're dead. Blasted. And not just shot to make sure. Garen fucking T dead. I mean, fucking hell. If you've seen the photos of them on the slab, which, trust me, they're not an easy look at. If you've seen them, wow, you know, that's a mess. They left them, in the words of Dibley, very dead. Because when Dibley was talking about Kevin Whitaker, he was found in a ditch and he was very dead. Just like them three, very dead. Now you're going to tell me that Darren Nichols, in that car, finding out that them three had been blasted by Mick and Jack, he's not going to remember that night for the rest of his fucking life. It's just put him in witness protection. His life will always be the outcome of what went on that night, if it is all to be true that what we're meant to believe. So 100% guaranteed he's going to remember what went on that night. Because it's probably gone over in his head. How many fucking times do you think it's gone over in his head? Played over and over and over. And he's going to get it wrong 28 different times. They're going to go, no, Darren, not that way. We need to do it this 28. That in itself should show you that the man has got permanent memory loss or it's bullshit. It's like a fucking goldfish with his 3-second memory, just always forgetting what went on. Just hasn't got a clue. Who was it again? It was Mick and Jack. Who? It was Mick and Jack. Who? Mick and Jack. Get him a McDonald's, he's forgot. One of the things I have seen that keeps being brought up recently, since it's been announced that Jack won his parole, was the why not Mick? When two people are sent down for the same crime, you don't necessarily both get released on the same day. It's not like, you know, you both done your term, your time served, you both get out now. It is about progress within prison. Regardless of whether Mick did sue the prison twice, once for being beaten up and then once for a tooth for filling, and he lost his payout for being beaten up, but then he won the 44,000 for his filling. A lot of people have said, well, you know, why is Mick not being released now? When they were both sentenced for the murders, they were both sentenced to 15 years. And then it was later extended to 25 by Jack Straw. But then over the years, Jack has learnt to read and write in prison, and he's been teaching others. And just because of general behaviour, good behaviour, his sentence was reduced to 22 years, which has now been 23 because of the COVID delay. But Mick is still a Cat A prisoner. Mick's not going to be up for parole. Mick's not going to be actually up for parole till 2023, and he's got the possibility to moving into an open prison next year. But a lot don't believe Mick's going to get out, to be honest. He's going to be 80 in 2023, and a lot of people just don't believe that he's ever going to get parole. But why is that? A lot of people don't think that's fair that Jack's got it and not Mick. And do Jack and Mick still have any interaction? Because it was said that after the trial, either in the court itself or on the way back, that Mick turned to Jack and said, it's okay, we'll do the time together. And Jack turned around and told him to fuck off, he didn't want anything more to do with him. Whether this is the case or not, why, if that's true, why would he say that? Now, in the mind of a certain person that released his 21 video series last year, his reasoning was because Jack had realised he'd been duped. But duped into what? Duped into being involved into the murders, or being a scapegoat, or a getaway driver? Jack's alibi was he was at the Wheat Chief pub picking up Darren Nichols' car. That's 58 miles journey from where Jack lived in the snow. But in the mind of Darren Nichols, or in his story, and in the mind of the jury, and anyone that thinks they're guilty, Jack was actually down the lane and not at the Wheat Chief pub when he made that call for Darren to come and collect them. Or, in Jack's version, to tell Darren that he'd actually got his car. But I don't believe either, to be honest. I don't believe Jack was there to pick up Darren's car 58 miles in the snow. And I don't believe for a fact Jack was down that lane that night. Or if he was down that lane, he definitely wasn't a shooter or wasn't there when it took place. Was he dropping off for Mick? Was he at the end of the alternative lane at the Wheat Chief pub to collect Mick? If Mick was in fact involved somehow. The lure, sorry. Sounds like I was saying lure, or just there and saw it happen. Afterwards, Mick carried on dealing with Russell Tate. I mean, killing Pat, carrying on dealing with Russell, yeah. It's just so much that alarm bells that ring out. And this whole case, so many different sides of it, which has always been the thing that we've always tried to get our head around and tried to work things out with the crime scene, courtroom, the various other channels and the Facebook groups. And then Nipper turns around and says his old man done it. Kind of felt like he was trying to put it all to bed, that he was literally trying to say, right, you lot, stop thinking about it and go and get on with your lives. Let me say this and it will end it all. But at the end of that interview, or his Q&A, he just left us all with more questions. And then last month, Liquid Bullet Productions had just been inundated with when is the Nipper Q&A part 2, which we hope is going to give us all the answers we want, like time of death, route taken, vehicle used. I could go on, but the CCRC at the moment are still investigating Nipper's story, and I've told him he's not to do any Q&A until they've finished their investigation. So all we can do is but wait, and that is exactly what we're doing. Whether this next Q&A comes out and just puts it all to bed, gives us all the answers we need, gives us all the answers we want, and we all go, oh, okay. I mean, a lot are expecting there to be a Steve Nipper Ellis movie or a Steve Nipper Ellis book coming out. I mean, there already is a book. Nipper's already got a book out there, Last Man Standing, which originally was meant to be made into a movie, but the studio behind that bought the rights is no longer around. Whether that's going to change now that after this Q&A, it was all in the papers, the Sun newspaper, with the, I think it was page 16 or something, with the headline, "My Dad Killed the Essex Boys." I think a lot of us expected that to be front page news. It was at the time. The murders were all front page news, the trial was all front page news, but 25 years on, 26 years on from the murders, Steve Nipper Ellis saying that his dad did it was far from front page news, which, you know, I kind of think that, yeah, that should have been bang straight on the front. That should have, forget everything that week, that should have been, that day, that should have been on the front. for all of us that find that case important anyway. But they just, I think around the time of the Q&A, when it dropped, around New Year's Day, so many people just 100% believed it, 100%. And I think in the time since, there's a lot of doubt raised in people's heads. Through certain parts of the questioning, some of the answers he gave and the way he went around giving them, and just this Damien Alvin being the fourth passenger, and Steve's version of events being exactly the same as Darren Nichols, pretty much. The fourth passenger, somebody waiting in the bushes, the Range Rover pulls up in front of the gate, the fourth passenger gets out to open the gate, Steve's dad emerges from the bushes. This is the bit that loses me, just slightly. I mean, I'm probably completely caca saying this, but Steve said his dad's intended target, the first intended target, was Craig. Anyone with common sense would take out the driver, because if you're taking out Pat and Tony, Craig's got that time to react, either driving forward, driving back. You know, he has that time to react. You don't want that. You take out the driver first. So you're there, it's dark. Okay, there's the snow, there's the light off the snow. The Range Rover pulls up, and in your mind, in your head, as soon as that fourth passenger gets out, because Steve does mention he pushes Damon out the way. Doesn't, because if the Range Rover pulls up, the rear door opens, Damon has to walk around the door to get to the gate. He doesn't close the door. He opens the door, leaves the door open. Why would you leave the door open? It's snowing, it's cold. Okay, he leaves the door open. Okay, he didn't know Nipper's dad was going to do that, apparently. So he leaves the door open. So he walks around the door to go to the gate. But before he's got a chance to walk around the door to go to the gate, Steve's dad's thrown him out the way. Okay, Steve's dad's mission: shoot the driver, take out the driver. Yeah, you can see Craig's head. But as he enters the light of the Range Rover, Pat sees the end of the shotgun. And he shoots Pat first. But the part I don't understand that. Now, I understand it's easy just to swing the gun round. But if your focus is Craig, the driver, and this is I was going through this the other day and with a friend of mine, and I'm pretty sure he just thought I was loco. But depending on where you are in the bushes, going on Rise of the Foot Soldier, I know it's a movie, but look at how Jack steps up to the Range Rover and shoots Craig. He comes from like a 5 o'clock angle to the Range Rover. Straight up, there's Craig. Steve's version of it is, the minute his dad is at the back of the Range Rover to shoot Craig, Pat sees the gun, right? So you're there, your focus is Craig, and in the corner of your eye, or you look and you see Pat see the gun. Why are you going to shoot Pat first? It will take you seconds to shoot Craig. Click, click, point at Pat and shoot him. And the amount of time you've got to shoot Craig, click, click, and then turn it to Pat. Pat ain't got no chance. He's got no time. He's got nothing. He's got no time to do nothing. He's got a split second, 2 seconds at the most. That's the bit that I'm lost on. I mean, we don't know the order of the killings. We never have. We've only gone on Darren's version of events that said Craig first. In the Truth documentary, it was stated that Pat was shot first. Colton Leach, in an old interview when he's with Kate Cray, says Pat got it first. But apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, because of he took Kate Cray down the wrong lane that night, on that interview that day. That sounded dodgy, didn't it? That night, Kate Cray was there and Colton and all. But no, I mean, that day, on the interview for Hard Bastards documentary she used to have on TV, apparently he took her down the wrong lane that day. But so Pat said it first. Colton said Pat was first. On the Truth documentary, it said Pat was first, but then that was changed again recently on the YouTube series. And now Steve's saying it. But Steve's reasoning for Pat being shot first is not the fact of that the door opened, Pat's at the back, bang, bang, bang. Because then that puts Tony as a third person to be shot. That puts Tony as having the time to open that door. And there's this rumour, this ongoing about it's like where is the original Range Rover, and did Pat fall out did Pat fall out of it? There's some of the debatable questions that get asked a lot on the group. I mean, a lot of people just laugh when you say Tony fell out, and a lot of it's based on the mud on his boots. But if you look at the bottom of all their boots, Tony is the only one that has got mud on him. You know, whether that means some people just laugh at this part. You'll go on the groups and you'll say, yeah, you know, it's chances are Tony may have fallen out, or you know, he might have gone out for a wee or whatever. And people will go, well, you know, how is this important? Why is it? And on certain parts, it's not. It's not important whether Tony's had a wee or not. It's Darren's version of events. The Range Rover pulls up to the gate. That's when Mick gets out. That's when Jack runs up. Steve's version of events. Range Rover pulls up. Damien gets out. His dad rocks up. I don't know much about Range Rovers. I don't know much about cars in general. But if you look at the photos of the Range Rover in the morning that's been sat there, you can see that that's been sat there for a certain amount of time with the engine running. Now, when the farmers found the engine in the morning, it was switched off. And there was half a tank or 3/4 of a tank left in it. Sunroof was open as well. A lot of people say that it was there for a longer amount of time than we're meant to believe. But if that's the case, then Tony may have got out and had a wee and got mud on his boots. But with there being snow and everything being frozen, what are the chances of him actually getting mud on his boots? Or was it just the fact of he just stood in snow? Regardless of whether he got out, had a piss, had a dance down the lane, jumped over the gate, whatever, if Tony was the third to be shot, to be killed, then the chances are he did have a slight time to react. Only slightly. Only just. But if it's Craig, then Pat, then Tony. But again, it's the loud bang in a small, you know, space. It is enough to make anyone literally brown stain themselves. And his phone was in his hand. Pat's phone was in his hand. There's nothing saying that the scene was a setup, that the scene was meant to be found that way. There's this, because there are a lot of rumours, regarding the case. And one of them rumours is that what the farmers discovered that morning isn't what we've seen in the photos. Well, I mean, I don't even actually know how that could have come out. I don't know if that's something to do with Ken Jiggins, and because there was always the question of why Ken's statement isn't online, isn't on the site with all the other statements. But what I was told recently, that there was over 1,000 statements taken for the murders, and only around 300 are online. There are quite a few missing. I actually asked the person that put the statements online, why there are various ones missing. Anna Whitehead, Tony's partner at the time, and obviously Ken Jiggins. But I was told that not all the statements, there was not enough time to put all the statements online. So it would have been interesting to see Ken's statement, even though we've got we've got Ken's version on a documentary with Peter, pretty much stating what went on. But that is one of the rumours, that they were found in a different state to the photos that were taken that morning or that afternoon. Another one of the rumours is the fact of the bodies being discovered a lot earlier than 8 o'clock by Peter and Ken, and that they were discovered by there was a phone call to Bright at 6:30 with a report of the discovery of the Range Rover, and this was later meant to have been a typo, and the report was meant to say 8:30 or 8 o'clock, and instead it said 6. And also the rumour of the three being under police surveillance up until 24 hours before the murders. Also the rumour of why Pat wasn't arrested for the pizza guy incident of Roger Ryan, whatever. Also Craig being pulled over for driving, getting a driving ticket. There's you know, the rumours and the conspiracy theories of what really has gone on, and you know, the alibi, Rebecca Carr's alibi, the Range Rover being seen with white Sierra Cosworth various times that day. There was even a report of the Cosworth shooting at the Range Rover, but that's possibly just a backfire from the exhaust. But again, I don't know what I'm on about because I don't know enough about cars. So you know, there you go. But various sightings of the Range Rover throughout the day, at the lane itself, in the morning, in the afternoon. Peter Theobald's wife saw the Range Rover there with another vehicle. There was been various sightings of other vehicles on the lane that day. There was a sighting of the Range Rover with 3 stocky men stood outside of it, waiting. There's a lot of signs that say the Range Rover had been down there various times that day. But why? If they're waiting, because it sounds like they're waiting for something, but daytime, could you really see a plane drop it in the day and them just driving down the lane and, you know, hopping the fence and grabbing a package, and then it's a risk, but doing it at night is also a risk. A plane flying low, dropping off onto a field, because there's no way that plane was going to land and take off, and Peter going, is that a plane outside? No, don't worry about it, love. It's nothing. It's the neighbours. I mean, they were used to shooting. I mean, were they used to planes flying low and dropping packages? I mean, not obviously they would know that, but it's sniffs of bullshit. The law. It's a crock of shite. It's a story that's been invented to fit the narrative of Darren Nichols' version of events, because they probably didn't have nothing. You know what they're really down there for, whether it's a plane drop or a deal or whatever it is. They realised they had absolutely nothing, and they were like, shit, what are we going to do? Let's invent a plane. Because ask yourself this: why did Donna Jagger's statements not come around till February? Is that because of she's that upset? Is that because she's so, you know, grieving over of Craig that she couldn't get the statement? Because is that how police work? If you've had your partner died and they've got an important... Because I would have thought out of any of the statements, Donna's would have been more important than Lizzie Fletcher and Donna Garwood's. Because Donna Jaggers lived with Craig. I mean, she knew all that. I mean, look at, you've just got to read her 4 statements or 3 statements she'd done out. She's talking about the old Mickey Bowman thing with the machine gun. I mean, she's just spinning her guts out on them statements. There's no secrets on them. You know, she's like, Mickey this, the pilot, and Craig, and then we went there and we done that. And it's just like, why are you singing so loud? But she wanted to sing, she sang, and it, you know, She picked Mick out of a lineup. But why so late? I mean, why February? Why? Because within 48 hours, Dibley had stated there was a fourth passenger in that Range Rover and that someone was hiding in the bushes. Why? What made you think that, though, Dibley? Because you think about it, it could have been any sort of thing. Why somebody waiting in the bushes? There was no indication that there'd been anyone down in the bushes. There was a little bit of tread on a bush. But if someone's laying in wait, the Range Rover's lights are going to pick straight up on that person laying there. Is that someone laying in the bushes? No, don't worry about it. You know, laying in a blue boiler suit. Unless he was wearing a white boiler suit, wouldn't he have stuck out a little bit? Anyway, and it's sort of, I mean, yes, there is a possibility that he could have been on the field, which is on the left side of the Range Rover near the gate, or down an alternative lane, or sort of in that area somewhere, and then just walked up to the Range Rover when it's parked up at the gate. Bearing in mind, there's no footprints. Whether the farmers ran over the footprints or not, there is nothing. There is that size 8 high-tech slam dunker boot, which again just gets laughed at about. Why would you wear? Well, number one, rips because, you know, high-tech, what crap. Listen, 95, was 95. It's not 2020 or 2021. 95. The makes out then were, I knew people that were high-tech. They weren't ripped as much as Nick's, and you know, there were other makes out there that you could rip the arse out of. High-techs weren't really. So he took the mickey out of it. It was like, if you make more high-techs, fair enough. You know what I mean? You didn't, you know, they weren't cheap. They weren't like on the level as, what is he on about? They weren't on the level as Nike and Puma and all that lot, but they weren't cheap. They weren't like track star. You know what I mean? That's what I wore, and yeah, I got ripped for that. I tell you, I was 11 years old. But that's beside the point. So high-tech slam dunker. That's what they're meant to have wore. Size 5. Sorry, size 8. Oops. Just to clear something up now. The size of the footprint found down the lane was a size 8. Slam dunker, high-tech. Nipper is a size 5. Nipper's dad was a size 5. Jack is a 12. So that's 3 people's that footprint weren't. And Jack was wearing a pair of high-tech silver shadows in his on his trial photos. So a lot of people added 2 and then got 5 of that one. But there's nothing down that lane that says that there was somebody waiting near the gate. So if anyone was waiting down there, it would have been on the left side. It's unlikely they would have been on the right side because there just wasn't that much bush there. There wasn't really anywhere anybody could actually wait and not be seen by the Range Rover lights. But I don't understand why Dibley had never put it in his mind about about another vehicle coming down behind the Range Rover, some sort of deal, possibly Jack, Mick, who knows, some sort of drop in drugs to the 3 in the Range Rover, and some sort of deal was done, and maybe they were just sort of sat there. Maybe the vehicle behind was leaving, and then they were going to then reverse and lead down the lane, and that's when somebody appeared with a shotgun and took the 3 out. Or there is the Billy Jasper theory, where, you know, that it was midnight and Billy Jasper dropped off someone that went to do a deal. Well, he left with a bag with a pistol and a shotgun, a pump-action shotgun, or a sawn-off shotgun, sorry. But when Billy Jasper was in court, apparently they just didn't take him seriously and they laughed him out. And then there's this rumour that he winked to Mick and Jack on the way out because Billy was meant to have been known as a bit of a fantasist that liked to admit to crimes that he wasn't connected to. But the apparent blink or wink to Mick and Jack is not true, according to certain people that are in the know, and that this was just added on to then make Jasper's account of what happened just sound like rubbish. And whether this is the case or not, Billy Jasper's version of events has never really been taken seriously. But Darren Nichols' version of events was pretty much Billy Jasper's, partly. A lot was borrowed from it. And that's possibly come from the old bill and fed to Darren, which just makes you laugh how that man can sleep at night. Very well, thank you, after an Ovaltine. I think one of the confusing bits about Jack's parole hearing recently was the fact of a few people assumed that he'd had to admit guilt to get parole. And I guess this was always the case back in the past, but this isn't the case anymore, or definitely isn't the case with Jack. It was more of a risk to the public than admitting the crime. Jack's never admitted anything, and he's always denied having any part of the murders of Pat, Tony and Craig. But some people will believe that that Jack has admitted his part in the crime just to get out. That's not the case. Because an article that was printed just the other day on the 26th of January states that the Essex boy's murderer won't give up in a bid to clear his name. The article from the East Anglian Daily Times states, the Suffolk brother of a man convicted of the triple killings known as the Essex boys murders has said he won't give up until his name is cleared. Jack Wilmes, formerly of Brockford in Suffolk, has been deemed suitable for release by the parole board after serving 23 years in jail. Wilmes' brother John, who lives in Medlesham near Stowmarket, has said he's relieved to hear the parole board's decision. He's also said he's 100% confident that Jack will be successful to clear his name. We're definitely happy for him. He can now go home with his mum, which is what he wants with COVID going on. But he's going to still keep on fighting. Everything will carry on as normal. There is a CCR decision pending. The truth is out there. He will clear his name 100%. He won't give up until his name is cleared. A parole board spokesman said the panel carefully examined a whole range of evidence, including details of the original crime and any evidence of behaviour change, as well as understood the harm done and the impact the crime has had on its victims. Many people are hoping or believe that when Jack gets out, there will be some sort of book, some sort of interview, a story being told, a story sold to the papers. But he just won't be allowed. As he's going to be on licence, there's certain people he won't be allowed to contact. And there's certain things he won't be able to do. And part of it is discuss the crime itself. Which is unfortunate, because I'm sure there's a lot of us that would really love to hear Jack's side of events, what happened that evening on December the 6th. Now, there is a witness that came forward stating that at 7:40 on that evening, they saw a white transit van leaving the lane. Now, being so close to the time that we're meant to believe that Pat, Tony and Craig died, well, the phone call from Jack to Darren being 6:57, so dead by 7, this white transit van leaves the lane at 7:40, being just 40 minutes after the murders. And the interesting part of the statement is that the driver of the white transit van pulls out into the passing traffic, and the witness himself states that the reason I remember the van coming out the lane was that it pulled out in front of him
causing him to brake. And because it was icy and snowing, he thought what an idiot he was. Now, straight away, an idiot, a lot of people will think of Darren Nichols. But what if the person driving the car or the transit van wasn't an idiot? They were simply nervous of what they'd seen or what they'd just done, and wanted to get out there as quick as possible. Now, the witness stated they saw only one person in the transit van. Now, maybe they were driving too fast, or the person in the white transit van was driving too fast when he pulled out, or there wasn't someone in the van with them. So this couldn't have been Nipper's dad and Damien Alvin. Was it Darren Nichols? Now, straight away, because of the word idiot, that's possibly the first person you're going to think of. But is it just a coincidence that there's a white transit van that shows up in a lot of the police photos from the following days, or the following morning and the day of the 7th of December? Yeah, merely probably just a coincidence, but of all the cases, this case really doesn't need any coincidences with the layers and depths and all the twists and turns there already is. Could this have possibly been police surveillance that was following the three? Because we know they were meant to have had surveillance up until the night before, which just seems very, convenient. But what if they were being followed that night, and the murders happened after 7:30? The Range Rover drives down the lane, another vehicle drives after it. That vehicle then leaves. The Range Rover's just sat down there, and this white transit van drives down to see what's going on, maybe to question the three of them. And it rocks up, finds all three of them dead, and just decides to get out there and leaves for the farmers to find. The same case with the morning, with the 6 o'clock or 6:30 finding, which was meant to have been detectives. Why did they happen to drive down that lane? Does that what happens around all? The lane was meant to have been known to people. There was a stolen lorry that was left down there once. And to be totally honest, I truly believe the three knew of the lane. At least Tony previously used to know Peter Theobald's brother, Bill Theobald, or William. They used to be friends, or they used to train together, and so he would have known about White House Farm, and they had knowledge of that lane. They had been down there previously, and they had been seen down there that day. So if it was a knowledgeable lane to the police that just happened to be that morning driving down there, let's go right to the back of this lane to see if there just happens to be anybody parked up down there, and they discover the Range Rover and then just leave. It just seems very unlikely. So were they under surveillance, and was the 7:40 sighting of the white transit van the police? Or was it the getaway vehicle, the shooter? Was the person alone? Was it the person doing a deal? Was it Jack? Was it Mick? It could really be anyone. Was it Nipper? See, of all the theories that go round on the groups, on the channels, in my mind, Nipper hasn't really ever been at the forefront. He's been in the polls, but in the discussions of the person that shot the three, not was just there, because in the movie, in Darren's version, there are two people at the end of that lane that night that did the shooting and saw the murders. Jack, Mick. 5 people there. Only 2 walked away. Darren watched it from here, or was in the pub down the lane, Meadow Road, whatever. He seemed to float around a lot that night, Darren, whilst waiting for Jack to whilst he dropped Jack off, and Jack waited down the lane for Mick to arrive in the Range Rover. But to be honest, it is the thinking of a lot of people. There was more than just the 2 people down the lane that evening. That there was a deal. And then suddenly there may have been a shooting, and the people that were down there doing the deal may have seen it take place. And it could have been Mick. And it may have well been Jack. If you looked at the 2 people in prison over these years, and you were asked, who do you think out of the 2 has a secret? Who would you believe out of the 2 it is? Jack? I mean, I've seen some people, I've read some comments that have looked at a few of the pictures of Jack. Mainly the one, I think there's a couple of close-up photos. And they say, oh, he's got it in the eyes. He's got killer eyes. He's definitely the killer. And it always seems that they come up with this conclusion without knowing any of the facts. That it's like they've just seen this photo and they make it up. I mean, God, wow, they must be like Professor X from the X-Men. You know, just to be able to read off just a photo and go, yep, he's a murderer. He's a killer. He's got it in the eyes. If his eyes are pure black, like the Dark Man, and you can just see pure evil, then that's understandable. But Jack hasn't got dark eyes. I mean, come on, people it when people say that, it just seems like they're just so, oh, he did it. Yeah, but can I just try to explain to you that, no, he did it. He's got it in his eyes. And no matter what evidence they're shown that this person, that there might even be a shadow of doubt, a lie detector test, witness statements placing them in a different area, they would still say he was part of it. I mean, yeah, but it's everyone's got their own opinion. And the jury found him guilty. And all they heard was Darren Nichols' events that night. And they were told of this hatred between Mick and Pat. Billy Jasper's version of events were thrown out. Donna Jagger's statement says it's Mick. And that's all they had, and that's all they went with. And you hear of these crimes in America. You hear of these people. I mean, there's the big one on Netflix about the guy that was done for the rape of a woman. He was in prison for 18 years, and then he got out, and now he's back inside because of the murdered woman. But if you take that original part of that, and he was inside for 18 years, and one day they went, oh, he didn't do it, and they just let him out. And there's so many times you hear that. It's happened in England. There's so many times that you hear. And when they're let out, it's like they just go, sorry, and there's maybe some sort of payment, and well, there is, but that's meant to make it all better. Money and we're sorry. And think of what you've probably had to go through in prison all them years. I mean, there's not only the fact of you didn't do that crime and you're away from your family, but some of the bad things that must happen to you in prison, especially if it's in like a prison in America and if you're not in some sort of gang or whatever, and so, I mean, money's supposed to make it up. Jack's not coming out to that. There may be a possibility if this conviction gets overturned. But he had the unfortunate situation of probably being involved with people that just brought him down to a level that in the end he had to serve so much time. And Darren Nichols has just been, if we're led to believe it's true, moving around England, Scotland, Bristol. These are some of the areas that you always hear that he's been living in, especially Scotland over the last few years that he moved. Bristol was the one that where he got caught dealing. I've heard he was still down there quite recently, down in the Swindon area. And to be honest, he's probably not in any of these places. If there was any sense in the whole thing, Darren Nichols wouldn't even be in England anymore. Darren Nichols would be in Australia, and he's, Dorian Nichols, or whatever his name is now. Because there's been so many different times that people say that they've got information about him on the groups, and they come forward and they say, there's this bloke working in my factory who's just started and he's fat and he eats a lot and he's got this funny haircut and I think he's Darren Nichols, and he's not. He's Kev from Blackpool and he's just moved. But people are suspicious of new people. Anyone that's got in, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I was at work the other day and this guy comes in and it goes through your mind. You do think. And I always look for people of that build. I'm with the missus sometimes and I'll say to her, there's Darren Nichols. And he's everywhere. He is everywhere. T-shirts need to be printed with I am Darren Nichols on them, because Darren Nichols is everywhere. But wherever you are, Darren, Jack's out now, or he's about to get out, and there's no one like he's hearing, like he's listening to this. That's hilarious. Darren, this is a message from me to you. Come forward now, Darren. Everything's fine. No, but at the end of the day, what has he got to lose coming forward now? Think about it. He's got nothing. Well, his life, if someone's coming after him. But maybe it is time. Maybe that's the next twist we need on this case. We've had Nipper coming. Maybe Darren needs to come forward and correct things. Maybe he needs to be the one that needs to come out and say that Steve's lying. If Steve's lying, and I'm not saying he is. But if he is, maybe Darren needs to be the one to come out and say he is. Or Damon. Because poor old Ricky Percival has done enough time in prison for a crime that he probably didn't commit. But that's a whole different story. That's a whole different side of things. But more than chances are, Ricky Percival is an innocent man. And Damon Alvin and Darren Nichols have got a lot in common. But that used to be the one thing that put them in common. Not this situation, not the Range Rover murders, not Pat, Tony and Craig. But if you're led to believe what Nippers says, Damon Albarn is that fourth person in that Range Rover who possibly likes really salted crisps and topics. But because, as you know, there was a topic bar I mean, that rubbish could have been in there for ages. People always joke about the really salted crisps, but that rubbish could have been in there a while. I mean, if you think about it, most people that throw down rubbish in their cars, or their Range Rovers, in fact, it can be in there for a few days. So, but if it wasn't, and it's a strange thing for someone that's going to a crime, if the fourth passenger knew, if it was Mick, then Mick didn't eat them crisps. We're led to believe that Mick is clever, but yet he's using mobile phones, eating ready salted crisps, eating topics, like leaving a trail. Did he have some sort of like, I just want to go to prison. I'm so bored of my life. I'm so bored of, like, you know, importing and making money and, you know, not living this high life that we're led to believe, this drug baron, but just enjoying life and being with Jackie. And he was just bored and he just thought, I've had enough. I need some downtime. I need some me time. And I'll just shoot 3 people and I'll leave a trail. And I'll use the most stupidest person that's bound to get caught eventually. And when he does get caught, voila. I'll get down. I'll get sent down. And unfortunately, Jack will get sent down too. I just wish Mick was more vocal. I just wish Mick was more, you know, just jump through the hoops like he was meant to. But he's old school. I mean, the argument where he got beaten up was over bacon, because he just wanted a bacon sarnie. And Mick's old school, and the Muslims didn't like it. But that's how the papers made it to look. It could have been a lot different to that. We don't know the actual side of it. We don't know what actually went on. But if we're led to believe what was in the papers, then that, you know, that statement itself sounds funny. If we're led to believe what in the papers, going through the articles, and there have been quite a few on that certain person's set of videos, the 21 videos, that was managed to pull a lot of articles out from that, and there's so many mistakes in the articles. Getting the names wrong, ages wrong. So, I mean, out of probably 100 articles, there was probably 4 or 5 that didn't have mistakes in them. So the public, around the time of the murders, were led to believe a lot of stuff that just wasn't true. A lot of stuff that was just false, mistakes, and as well as the trial, with the outcome, think of how much falsism there is to the trial, to the case, that the public out there between 95 and 98 were led to believe that Mick and Jack were the murderers, that all these small little details in the articles that were wrong. But would Michael Steele, be that stupid enough to leave the trail, the topic wrapper, using phones, the really salted crisp, and using Darren Nichols as the getaway driver, which, unless he knew that he was going to get caught, because it just doesn't make any sense. But Mick's old school, been quiet for a reason. And unlike Jack, just hasn't shown any effort, and it's possible that the parole board in 2023, if he does make it that long, and I hope he does, parole board may just see the same thing and may just knock him back, and he may end up spending the rest of his life and the rest of his days in prison for not even being involved in it at all. I mean, a lot believe he's part of the law. I don't know why that is. Why the fact that people do believe that he is part of it. And it possibly just comes back to Donna's statement. But if you took that away, and Donna did not state that Craig had mentioned meeting Mick the pilot, and she didn't point him out in a lineup, then what would make people think that Mick was part of it? What if he'd done the same as Jack and gone through the hoops and was looking to also be released this year or last year without the COVID delay? Would you still think he was part of the law? And what does make people think that? A lot of people immediately always go back to the motive of the hatred of Pat. Now, on the groups, there are a lot of frequently asked questions. Where is the original Range Rover, being one of them? Please. I'm not going into that one. Also, why Craig Rolfe was portrayed as he was in the Rise of the Foot Soldier movies, going back to the original one. The answer to that is apparently because Carlton Leach didn't like him, and so he made him that way in the first movie, and that just carried on as like the comedian type in 3 and 4, which I have heard he's meant to be taking more of a serious role. His characters in the Rise of the Foot Soldier Tony Tucker story, he's meant to be a lot darker, and that movie actually includes the Kevin Whitaker murder, which was kind of briefly shown in the first one, but it was a different character. The 5th Foot Soldier movie, which is coming out at the end of the year, has been mentioned to be a lot darker than the previous movies, and this is the last one in the series with them actors. That is another ongoing thing within the Facebook groups, is the various titles of the upcoming movies, like Rise of the Foot Soldier 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the Tree story, the Gate story, the Range Rover story, the Farmer story, and I could go on, but like I say, it is the last of the movies. With those current actors, Craig Fairbrass, and I'm guessing that Terry Stone's done after this one. But one of the also frequent asked questions, it gets brought up a lot, that because in the movies it shows that Mick and Sarah, or Kate as she's portrayed in the movies, had an affair, but that simply isn't the case. And Sarah looked up to Mick as a father figure, but in Bonded by Blood, there's the affair. There's the hint of it in Rise of the Foot Soldier, and there's also an affair in Fall of the Essex Boys, which, funny enough, same actress plays Kate or Sarah in all 3 movies. And that is one of the motives we're led to believe of why Mick wanted Pat dead, so then he'd get with Sarah. And that is just another lie to make it seem like Mick's guilty. So many little things to add up to make you decide that the 2 people in prison are guilty of the murders. more so Mick, and with being the planner. But it also is said that if Mick was just part of the law to get them down there, then he is also guilty of murder and should still be inside for the amount of years that he is. Just like what was said by Colton Leach in his interview with James English. Now, during that interview, Colton does mention that the two were down the lane. The three, Pat, Tony and Craig, went down the lane at 6 a.m. And that question gets brought up a lot on the Facebook groups, and people do wonder, does Colton know more for saying that statement, or was it just a mix-up? In my mind, it was just a mix-up between 6:30 in the evening, or 6 o'clock in the evening, 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Because if that was the case, and the three were murdered down the lane at 6 a.m., where were they all that evening from 7, 8 a.m. at a p.m.? They had the dinner booking. That, if you listen to the answer machine messages, Tony's partner at the time, or mistress, she was ready and waiting. She was leaving messages that she was ready. What has always crossed my mind is the extra booking that Tony made that evening for 2 more people to join them at the Global Cafe, or whatever the name is of the place they were meant to be meeting that evening. In my mind, they're happy about this consignment they're about to pick up, or this robbery they're planning, and they invite the 4th passenger and his partner out that evening. Now, always in my mind was Mick and his partner Jackie. Pat and Mick being friends from the past, Sarah and Jackie being friends, but Sarah wasn't going that evening to the dinner booking. So it was likely it wasn't going to be Mick. But that was what was always on my mind. But whoever was there, we're meant to believe that they trusted him because there was no weapons. And it also seems whoever was there possibly got invited on that meal that evening. So if that's the case, was it likely to be Damon Alvin? I mean, really, it could be anyone. And we'll never really know whether that was just an alibi. But it seems unlikely, considering Craig had dropped off Donna that evening to get a new outfit. But why were they celebrating so early? When, like we're led to believe that the drop was not going to be for a few more days till the snow had cleared up. Or were weapons just removed? And that evening was meant to be the night of celebration. Pat was going to pay Barry Dorman off for a vehicle. Said to Barry he was coming into money that evening. So where was the money coming from that evening? Maybe there was going to be a plane drop. Maybe they did have weapons. It was going to be a quick robbery. But word had got back to whoever was going to do the drop, and a trap was laid. But was that Sid Ellis, Steve Nipper Ellis's dad? Because that's what we're meant to believe from Steve, that his dad got word of this drop in Retterton that evening. Heard where they were going to be. So put himself down the lane, waiting for the Range Rover to turn up, and shot the three. But in a way, if you think about it, that exact story that we already know, the exact, someone gets out, goes to the gate, someone comes out the bushes. But Jack was took out, Sid Ellis was put in, Mick was taken away, and Damon Albarn was put in place. That could be anybody. This could be a game of Cluedo. You could put anyone as the fourth passenger. And you could put anyone as waiting in the bushes. Fourth passenger gets out. There comes the person in the bush. Why not a different situation? Why not a different story? Why not a different spin on the tale that we're already led to believe? Because if you came with something new, if you came with a different story, then maybe people would have more belief in your story, which is at least now a good 30%, when before at least 90% believed the story. Maybe the gap in the length of time between the Q&As has damaged that. Maybe it's the people rewatching it over and over again, seeing to see if he makes any of the little mistakes, reading into it now. There are people that 100% believe it, without a shadow of a doubt. There are people out there that believe that he is just covering for other people, and that he's been told to say this now, because maybe the limelight's about to go on to the people that really were involved. It all boils down to the question, though: would you say that about about your father? Would you say that about your dad if it wasn't true? And a lot find that hard to believe. But why would you say that about a person if it wasn't true? Regardless of whether they're dead or not, that's your father. And if you believe in karma, if you believe in life after death, would you really say that about your father? Would you say, I don't care? It's the people that say he's trying to make a quick buck that... Can you imagine that that's not... that to do that, to say that about your dad, to make some money? I don't believe that's the case. But if that is the case, if it came out that Steve was lying, 100% it came out that Steve was lying, can you really imagine in 6 months' time or in a year's time looking back and thinking, why would you come along when no one asked you to, and you did the Q&A, which, yeah, it was grateful for, and it was good, and it was, it was good to hear your answers to some of the questions. But why would you do that at the end? Why would you do that to us, the people that are interested in this, in trying to solve what went on that evening? Why would you come along and just bullshit? Why would you come along and lie? Why would you come along and bait us into believing you in this story and have us like some sort of fools? I hope it's true for Steve. I hope it's true, because I don't know what sort of person would do that if it's not true. And if you've not been paid one hell of a lot amount of money to say that, then wow. Because I mean, that's what makes me personally think there's got to be some sort of element of truth in what he's saying. There has to be. Because that is a lot to lie about. On camera, online, which is now being investigated by the police. That's a lot to say. And the quicker this Q&A, the next one comes along, the better, really. And this limbo in between is damaging to his story. And, you know, big up to Liquid Bullet Productions for the interview, for the Q&A. And for the following Q&As that have come out, or the interviews that have come out since. There's been one that dropped recently, and there's a couple of others in the pipeline. And so, you know, fingers crossed this nipple one comes out sooner than later. Because the world has got like crazy. There are these 10 main questions, and maybe this will clear it up. And maybe it will put it all to bed. And maybe, you know, there will be no more looking into the case, because that's what it's really always been. The puzzle of what went on that evening and putting it all into place and knowing the full details. And there's been a lot of people that have always said it was never going to come out, and it possibly never will. And people will take it to the deathbeds, and it may be deathbed confessions. So that's what this is why that took everybody to surprise when Steve came out and said that, and it made people think, wow, you know, are we really going to know the truth now? Is that really it? But it left a lot of questions unanswered. Those are the questions that need to be answered, and hopefully soon they will be. But in the meantime, if you've got to this point and you've managed to listen to this all, then bloody hell, wow. But before I go, a few apologies. Apologise for the bad language, and also I apologise for the quality in general, and for the amount of times I said which has got to be at least 100, and just apologise for just the whole thing, because it's just literally been me at work ranting. This has been the Essex Boys Case Rant, and I will see you around. Take care.